In this video, we will see the next chapter, which is how to create a table, HTML table in a web page. So we have seen so far so many attributes: how to format text, how to add headings, how to add paragraphs, and then how to add image, how to add links, how to add the lists, unordered list, ordered list, and definition list. So all these things we have already seen. Now we are going to see how to add a table to a web page. Okay, so a table is nothing but a grid where you have columns and rows. You have columns and rows. So the for each defining each, you can have column headings, and or you can have column headings, and you can have various rows and columns. You can have a caption. You can give a caption to the caption or title to the table. You can have borders around the cells, the way individual the cells in the individual table, each and every. So you have so many rows and columns. So the intersection of each row and column is called a cell. So within that cell you can have cell padding, you can have some space between the content of each cell and the border, and then the border between the, you can have different types of borders. So and you can have color, different color for the content for in each cell, and then you can have different font size, different font different background for the table. You can one particular row or column can be highlighted in different color. So all these things are possible here. So let us see one by one. Okay, so in general these are all the tags that are used for defining a table. So the outermost, so the whole table is now defined as a nested tags. Okay, so the whole it's a table is a nested element. So table by itself, it cannot display anything. So inside the table tag you will have to define each row, define each heading, and then define the content of each cell. Okay, so so the outermost tag will be the table tag. Then inside, once when you define, and then you will have to define each and every row. So how do we define a row? A row is defined by TR. Okay, TR is the tag that is used for defining a row. TH is used for table header. TR is table row, TH is table header, and then TD is table data, and then caption is the title for the table, or the heading for the table itself, title or caption for the table itself. And then call group is you want to group one or two columns for formatting. You want to have one or two the same format for one or two columns. Then you can group those columns and then give the various styles. So for that you can create what is called a call group. And then call individual, it is used with call group. So inside the call group you will have to define which are all the columns that will come under this call group. So that is where we use this call. And then T body is to group the body content in a table. T head is to group the header content in a table. T footer is to group the footer content in a table. Now these are some of the tags that are used for defining a table, but out of this mostly we will be using table, TR, TH. To define a very simple table, we will be using table, TR, TH and TD. Okay, now let us see an example. So this is a very simple table. So you will see that this table has got, now let us test this. Now this has got 3 columns. This is a table actually. This is a table without any border. So the first column is first name, second column is last name, and the third column is marks obtained by the student. Okay, so you have 3 columns. Now these are all the data. For defining a table you need the data also. So how do we give this? Okay, so you will have to open and close the table tag. You will have to use the table tag, and then inside the table tag, you will see that the first row is nothing but the header. The first row, namely first name, last name, and marks. So the first row is a header. So TR first number first row define பண்ண போறோம். அதுல என்னெல்லாம் இருக்குன்னு சொல்ல போறோம். So TR அதுல என்ன இருக்கு? TH heading இருக்கு. So அதனால TH and then first name. First name ங்கிறது content, and then the closing tag. Starting tag is TH, content is first name, and the closing tag is /TH. Then once when you close that, the first column is over. Then again for the second column, again there is another header. So open TH, then last name is the name of the column name, and then close TH. Then the second column is over. Then again third column, TH, marks, close TH, close TR. The first row is over. So you close the first row. Then again second row. Second row, again you will have to start a new TR tag. So again open a TR tag. Now here it is not a header. If it is a header, you will have to give the tag TH. If this is not a header, so you will have to give the tag TD. It's a data. So you will have to give the table data, so which is the TD tag. Okay, so TD, then what is the data? Content. So nu, then /TD. Then again first column is over. For the second column, TD, Jaiswal, /TD. Then for the third column, the TD, 60 and /TD. So the second row is over. So you close the TR tag. So like that, you will have to define each and every row and give the data. So all this is how, and once when you give this, you will see that this is the table that is defined. So this is a basic table. This you will see on the first row there is no gap between the headings. So you don't want the table to be like this. You want, whenever there is a table, you want it to be a border to be displayed around the table and individual cells. When I mean individual cells, the SONU is a data. It is the intersection of the second row and first column. So the first name அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து is an intersection of first row first column. Last name ங்கிறது first row second column. Marks வந்து first row third column. Similarly, Sonu is second row first column. Swati is fourth row first column. Like that. So this is one cell. This whole thing is a row, and this whole first name fulla இருக்கிறது is one column, and the intersection of a column and a row is called a cell. So the Swati ங்கிறது data inside a cell. So you will see that first name is occupying most of the space in the first cell. There is no gap in between எல்லாமே பக்கத்துல இருக்கிற மாதிரி இருக்கு. There is no gap between first name and last name. So you don't want your table to be displayed like this. So you want the grid, you want lines, borders displayed around the table. So for that, what should we do? So now we will have to add some more styles to the table. So how do we add the styles? You want to have it in different color, different size, all these things. As I told you, you can have so many styles for a table. So how do we define? Now there are two ways to specify the styles or the border. Border is one such style. So there are two ways of doing it. One is by defining the style attribute. We have already seen the style attribute in earlier videos. So style is one attribute that we have seen. So style கொடுத்துட்டு style equal to, and as I told you, style is a meta, it's a meta, it's a meta attribute. It's a metadata. So which means a meta attribute in the sense that within that style you will have so many other attributes. Style ங்கிறது overall attribute, and style குள்ள you have so many attributes. So which means that is why it is called a meta. So you will say style equal to Normally, when you give any attribute, you will say attribute name equal to value. Whereas when you define style, we will say style equal to within quotes. Inside that again you will give attribute name colon value. This we have already seen in previous video. We will again see it here. So one way of giving the border is to give the table attribute, that is the style attribute. Another way of giving this is, because style attribute is, now today you want the style of the border to be equal to, let's say, a simple border. So tomorrow you want the style to be a different style, you want slightly thicker thick style, and you want a different color also. So then in this case, when you want to keep changing your style, so when you each and every time, if you have more than one table on your web page, or you have, let's say you are defining a website and then you have more than one web page for the more than one web page for your website, and each and every web page has got a let's say has got a table, and you, for uniformity sake, you want you may not it will be uniform, like when you have all the tables displayed in the same color, same font, same everything, it will be very monotonous. So you may want to have the display tables in different pages with different styles. So which means, then in that case, what you will have to do is, each and every time when you keep changing, you may want, as and when you develop your web page, website, you may want to keep changing your the color, the style and all that, so that it blends with your background color, background image and all that. So based on that, you will have to keep, so the best thing, if you give an attribute, which means every time you will have to go and change, whenever you want to change the style, you will have to go and change the HTML code, source code itself. Okay, source code itself you will have to change, but that is not the right thing to do. Each and every time changing the source code is not a good thing. So what do we do for that? So what is style essence? It's a meta property, as I told you, it's a meta attribute. So for defining style alone, there is something called as CSS. So what is CSS? CSS is cascading style sheet. So we define a separate the style, when you can give it as attribute, but giving it as an attribute has lot of disadvantages, as I told you earlier. So instead of giving that as an attribute, we can take this attribute, instead of defining it as an attribute, we can take the style and give it separately as a CSS, which is a cascading style sheet. So how to define this as a cascading style sheet, we will see it in the next video or in the forthcoming videos, because that CSS itself is a separate topic altogether. So now in this video we will just see how to give the style attribute for giving various styles in the table. Okay, so suppose you want to give border. So border is one attribute. How do we give this? So border by itself, you can say table border equal to 1. Okay, border is an attribute. So this is an attribute for table. So table border equal to 1. So which means this is the output. This is the output. So now you will see that every cell is now surrounded by the border, and the table is looking just good. So this is one thing. So you can directly give a border attribute to the table tag. So within that table, the attribute is border equal to 1. You can keep changing this. Let us see, if you give 2, what happens? Okay, if I give 2 here, so you will see that the outer border has changed. Now if I give 3 here, slightly thicker thing, still thicker. Okay, so like that, if you keep changing the border equal to this number, you will get different types of borders. Okay, border equal to 1. And now how to give the border? Okay, I told you this is the using CSS. So CSS we will come back later in the next video. So now we will just skip this CSS and then we will go to the next attribute. What is the next attribute? The next attribute is cell padding. What do you mean by cell padding? Cell padding is to give some space. If you look at the previous this thing, see, if you look at the previous table, you will see that the first name அப்படிங்கிறது ஃபுல்லாக அந்த செல் ஃபுல்லாக ஆக்குப்பை பண்ணியிருக்கு. So the size of the cell will be the longest length. The longest, see, first name is the longest data in the first column. So that will be the maximum length for that column. Similarly, marks, if you look at the marks, the maximum length in the third column will take the first row, third cell has got marks அப்படிங்கிற data. So this marks data will occupy more space. That is the maximum space that the third column, any cell in the third column is occupied. So that will be the maximum length. So you will see that each and every column has got different widths, and there is no space between the border and the content. Here in the other cells there is some space because the data is small. If the data is big, okay, as as long as this first name, so the characters are as long as this first name, then you will not see, it will all be so congested, you will not see any space. Okay, so how to give some space between the data and the cell border? So for that you have another property which is called as cell padding. So cell padding is, if you give cell padding, then this is what. So if you give this, you will see that, you will see there is some space given between the cells, okay, and the border. So slightly it is not packed, the table is not packed, and there is some free space between the columns. So this is another cell padding is another this thing. So how do we give this cell padding? So the attribute is, here he has given only a style attribute, but what you can do is, you can give table and then padding. Let me now if you want to give the space, so here I have given the another attribute, so which is cell padding. Okay, you will have to give cell padding equal to 10 px. 10 px is 10 pixels. Okay, so now if you give let's say 15, and then when you run, you will see there is some more. So this is what the gap between, this is the content of each cell. So there is no gap between the content of the cell and the border. So the cell padding will give space between the content and the border. So this is how, if it is an attribute, then this is how you will have to give. So you can give border equal to 4 and cell padding equal to 15 px. Okay, or you can give border equal to 1 and then run. So this will be the thing. If you can keep changing, you can have what are all the different borders available. You can always go through the website, which is, I told you, w3schools.com. So there are so many different types of borders. So you get to know the different style of borders available, different colors, different fonts available. You will have to go through w3schools.com. Okay, and this is about cell padding. So we will continue tables again in the next video.